There we go.
Go live.
Hey, everybody. It's John Barrows with J Barrows Consulting and Make It Happen Mondays. Happy Monday. Today's session is going to be about everybody needs a vision. And this got me thinking based on my week last week, which was pretty insane week last week. I don't know if any of you are following me on Snapchat or whatever, but I left Boston on Monday, did training in DC on Tuesday, San Francisco on Wednesday, Santa Barbara on Thursday, and then New York. Took the red eye from Santa Barbara to New York on Friday morning and landed and went to Vayner Media, so Gary Vaynerchuk, and did their 4D, which is this deep dive on their business. Because the way it works is, I actually looked at Vayner Media to do my marketing for me, right? And I looked into them, and it was I think it was about $500,000 starting. So I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But what they did is now they have it so that you can anybody. Well, it's for 10 grand, but anybody can sign up for a 1-day deep dive where they go to Vayner Media. And all the department heads come in and they do a presentation on the different things like personal brand building, social media channels, all these different things. And it was from 9 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And then Gary comes in at the end and does a Q&A, which was awesome. So it was a pretty cool experience. And I wouldn't say there was one huge takeaway. There's the video. There's a pic of me and Gary, by the way. I wouldn't say there was one huge takeaway, because a lot of people have asked me, hey, John, what was the one key takeaway? I don't think there was one. But it definitely got me to think, and it got me to think about where things are going and some of the things I need to be doing to improve my business, improve my brand. And it also validated some of the stuff that I was doing too. But I think it goes in the realm, under the umbrella of what I wanted to talk about today, which was, everybody needs a vision. I've been doing sales now and business development and starting companies and those type of things for about 20 plus years at this point. And a lot of executives come up to me a lot and say, hey, John, how do I get my team bought into what I'm trying to do? I try to get them to do this. They just don't seem bought into it. And my first question of them all is, hey, okay, talk about some strategies and some things you can do to help people get all on the same page. But let me ask you, when was the last time you articulated your vision, your true vision of the company or of the department or whatever, and shared that with them and help them understand how they play a part in that, right? Because that's really my experience is the only way that you can get people to really be a part of something bigger than themselves and do more than just their job is to get them to feel like they're part of something bigger. I remember my first company that my friend Chris Merrill started. He, for some reason, the group that he hired and we had is from an executive standpoint. We all worked our asses off. We were all pretty smart, worked our asses off, and we all just felt part of something bigger, which is why we were willing to work for not that much money in the beginning. And drive towards what we ultimately ended up selling to Staples. So that piece of it, I can't tell you how important it is for you and your personal careers. Like, what's your vision for? I'm sorry, forget about your career. For your life, right? What's the vision? Where do you want to be? What kind of lifestyle you want to be living? Paint that picture, and then drive everything towards that, right? So that's where your goals and all that other stuff come into play about how it all supports that. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you don't set goals on a regular basis, then you're just along for the ride. You're letting somebody else dictate the path, and you're just there for the ride. So I really recommend goal setting, and that aligns with vision. And I say that for you personally, and then also as we work with our customers, right? Everybody needs a vision of where they're trying to get to and how we can help them get there. And if they don't have a vision, it's our job to help them create that vision, or at least show them what that vision could be. And why I think it's so important is because it gives direction. It allows us to help us understand if we are a fit here, because if we can help someone get to that vision, then we have the right to push. We have the right to be the challenger sale that everybody talks about, or be that thought leader, or push people. If we can align with their vision and their goals of what they're trying to accomplish as a business or an individual, then we have no right to push. We have no right to challenge them in any way, shape, or form. And so that's why a lot of what I do from when I'm talking to clients and executives and decision makers is to really help understand what they're trying to ultimately achieve, not just with the product or service I'm trying to sell them right now, but as a business, where are they trying to go? For their careers, what are they trying to get accomplished? And then really understand that and dig deep to find those. And then once I find those, and I can tie that to something that I can help support, then again, that's where I can push. And that's why if you've been through any of the trainings like Sandler, right? Sandler has the pain funnel. It's like you ask questions, you effectively just keep asking why, right? Like why is that important to you? What does that mean to you? Those type of things. Because what you're trying to dig for is that ultimate pain of, oh, there's that quantifiable metric that I can push on, which is great, and that's why we have to dig for those. But what we can't lose track of is pleasure. And when I say that, we're all taught to sell to pain in sales. It's like, find the pain, quantify it, and then dig into it. But visionary stuff, pleasure is something that can't be ignored either. And I think too much of us do, right? So we stop focusing on what they could do and we try to focus on what their problem is here short term. So because it's an easier sale ultimately, like pain drives inbound leads. It's easier for everybody to agree on pain. And they're usually a lot shorter term sales cycles, right? So they're easier sales ultimately. Whereas pleasure-oriented sales, where you're painting a vision for somebody and you're trying to help them get there, they take longer, but usually they're much bigger. They're less price sensitive, and they really they lead to much better relationships long term. And so as much as I'm not going to say here, ignore pain, because it's important, but also don't ignore pleasure. And that ties into what I was saying earlier about the vision, is really helping somebody, or at least trying to understand where they're trying to go, in the next 12, for example, in the next 12 to 24 months, when your CEO stood up and said, this is what we need to get accomplished this year, or whatever, what were those things? Help me understand what those were, and what about what we're talking about here helps align with those and helps can achieve those? What are some of the metrics that you're going to use to help justify that, right? Because if the person that you're talking to doesn't know that, then you might be able to get something small, a few licenses here or there. But when it comes to the bigger picture and a bigger deal, it's going to be a lot harder to justify that stuff, right? Especially as you move upstream to go get budget. The people above the power line, they understand hopefully what that vision is, and they can tell whether or not that solution is going to help them get there. And if it can, they're going to be able to make a pretty quick decision on, that aligns, or no, that doesn't. And so that's why I ask those questions, even to people below that power line. So recommendations, and by the way, ask questions if you got them. I don't know who's online right now, but if you got questions, feel free to ask them. But recommendations for today is I'd really sit down and think through what your vision is for what you're doing, and what your life wants to be, and then back into it with some goals of how to get there. For me, what the day with Vayner Media really did for me was help me realize I've always had a vision and goals, but I don't adjust them enough. I don't change them enough, right? It's like, because they need to evolve. And so for me right now, I'm in the middle of trying to figure out from my business standpoint a lot of stuff from a personal standpoint about how do I spend more time with my daughter and my wife? How do I get off of a plane as much as I can? And I've been overly fixated on this recurring revenue thing. Like, how do I drive recurring revenue so I can get myself off of a plane? And what I lost track of was, you can't really create recurring revenue without creating recurring value. And so one of the things I'm trying to accomplish now is I need to reset my expectations of what I'm delivering out there so I can add recurring value, so that then recurring revenue is usually in line with that. Okay. The other thing is, there's a lot of different things going on right now for me. And so from an evolution standpoint, for me, and also the profession of sales, I'm looking at it right now, whereas I really felt a while, it was like, hey, let me teach these kids sales techniques and things that they can do to help sell better today. Like that was really what this training did for me when I took it 10 years ago. It was, okay, here's a technique that I can do that I can send an email to an executive that'll drive a result right now. And that's awesome. I love it, right? Because I didn't, appreciate the theory of sales, this huge, long process or anything. I wanted to know, what can I do right now to drive results so I can, hit my targets, make more money, whatever. And that's still the case, the techniques. I mean, hopefully what you get out of me with tips and all the stuff that I share on social and stuff are things that you can do short term. But what I'm shifting to and what I'm noticing is that, sales is evolving at such a rapid pace right now, and technology is coming into our world at a rate that is scary. I saw this artificial intelligence, and I mean, I talk about this all the time, but there's a company that I work with that created an email, right? One of the big things about this training used to be very technique oriented. And there was this one email approach that was where it was about doing some homework on somebody and sending a very customized, thoughtful email to an executive, getting a referral down. And I'd say probably 3 or 4 years ago, I mean, no joke, the results were obvious because the templated crap would get you a 1% to 2% response rate at best. But if you did your homework and you did this approach right, you're talking a 15 to 20% response rate. I mean, that's what I was getting about 3 or 4 years ago. It's not the case anymore. Because the noise right now is so loud with, content marketing and all that other stuff, and artificial intelligence. I mean, like I was saying, I partnered up with this company that created an email, and they sent it to me as an example, like, hey, John, here's an example of what our artificial intelligent bot can put together. And when I tell you this email was better than one that I could have written, I mean, I read it and I'm like, my immediate response back to them was, there was no human involvement in this thing. Are you out of your mind? And they said, no. I mean, they picked the article that they told it to go look at, but that's it. They did one piece of input and they said, here, go write us an email. And the email was better than I could have written. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit. Like if that's happening right now, and this isn't too far away, by the way, until that becomes mass appeal. I mean, as far as the ability for that to do that at scale is going to be here within the year. I mean, I've seen it. Okay. So if that's happening right now, then what in the world am I training? Right? What am I teaching reps on how to do, and how relevant is it going to be here for the next few, I mean, maybe for the next few years, but what else? What after that? And so now going back to vision, and what I'm working on right now is I'm thinking through, what is my vision? What is my ultimate guiding light of what I'm trying to get accomplished here? And what am I trying to do for my quote unquote customers? Right. And I'm honing in on this evolution theme of helping sales reps evolve, helping sales reps stay ahead, or at least, teach them the skills they need to get better on a consistent basis. I mean, I look at this for my daughter, right? I don't know what's going to happen. She's 6 years old. Okay. I don't know what she's going to grow up into. Quite honestly, I'm pretty scared to death about it. But, as far as education is concerned, learning how to take a test, I'm not really all that concerned about that. What I'm really trying to figure out is, how do I teach my daughter to think? And so that, like, critical thinking skills, so that when she's presented with an obstacle or a challenge or whatever it is, that she can make a good decision, right? She can do an assessment of it very quickly and make a decision one way or another of what to do. Okay. And that to me is what, I'm trying to figure out with her, and where I'm evolving my mindset on what my job is here as Jay Barrows Consulting and doing sales training and consulting services. It's, I really want to change to try to, and I've been evolving this training over the years to really help reps evolve, help reps think about how to get better every day. so that they don't become irrelevant when stuff like this artificial intelligence hits hits the mainstream. And so that's why you'll hear me, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the number one tip that I can share with anybody, and the number one takeaway from all my trainings is A/B split test, right? A/B split test every single thing you do. And when I say that, I mean, again, take one thing, whatever you're trying to figure out. You're trying to call into CFOs in the healthcare industry. Well, come up with 2 different approaches to CFOs in the healthcare industry and send 20 emails out with this approach and 20 emails out with that approach and see which one yields a higher response rate. Objection handling. Write down the objection, come up with 2 different ways of approaching it, 10 times, see which one yields a higher response rate. That way you get better all the time. And if you have that mentality, you can really start to figure out what works for you personally compared to what works for somebody else with a different personality or whatever. So right now, this week that I'm home, actually, I'm home all week this week, which is rare. I'm going to be doing a lot of whiteboard sessions and strategy sessions, really trying to hone in on what that vision is for me. And then this is another thing that came out of the Gary Vaynerchuk thing, which is, what's your what's that guiding light, if you will? And then what are the principles the pillars that support that? And I have 12 guiding principles for myself, right? Which I've had those for a long time, which are my 12 guiding principles for success. And I wrote that a long time ago. I don't know where I came up with that or who suggested it or where I read it, but I was like, this makes sense. And so I wrote down 12 guiding principles for myself. And I use that, especially when I was just direct selling and also as a manager. And I shared those with my employees, and I said, look, this is where I come from. Okay, these are my guiding principles here. I'm not saying that I need these to be yours, but I need you to understand where I'm coming from, so that when I give you feedback or when I give you, whatever it is, or coaching, that's where it's coming from. Okay. And it was a nice way to just set expectations about where it was. But those guiding principles, I need to now again refine, because they should then, everything that I do as a business should be part of those guiding principles that support the overall vision. And so that's the exercise that I'm going to be going through this week, is to kind of identify what is that guiding light, what are the core guiding principles. I have 12 of them. When I asked Gary and them, they said, you should really have no more than 6, because then, you create content that supports those things, and you got to always make sure if you have too many, they're too many. So what are those 6 guiding principles that I'm going to hone in on? And those are going to have to do with, evolution, how to evolve, how to get better every day. And I think that's the same thing. How to do sales right, doing sales the right way. I've always said that sales, when done right, is the best profession on the planet. When done wrong, it's the worst. And so how do you do sales the right way? So those are the things I'm going to be figuring out. And then out of all that, then from a content standpoint and a product and an offering standpoint, making sure that I always align with those as I put content out there. So, I share that with you because I'd say that was the bigger takeaway from the day on Friday with Vayner Media and Gary. A lot of very specific tactical things as far as what technologies to use and what platforms and who's doing what and what to pay attention to, which you're going to see a lot more of me going forward from a social standpoint. So Instagram, for instance, I don't have an Instagram account. I'm going to put up an Instagram account. YouTube, I'm probably going to get a lot more aggressive with the YouTube channel and sharing things there. So there's going to be some tactical things, but the visionary thing really struck me as, I need to reset my vision, especially based on what I see going on in the marketplace right now and what I'm trying to help reps evolve to. So, as I said before, and I'll say it again, sales is I think one of the best professions, and it gives us the opportunity to create our own path, right? It's a flexible, the skill of sales, I don't think is ever going to be irrelevant. And sales, artificial intelligence is going to take over a lot of jobs here in the future, and it's going to make a lot of industries and a lot of professions irrelevant in so many ways, including sales. And but I think sales is one of those professions that if you're really good at it and you do it the right way with the right context and the right mentality, that it's going to allow for you to adapt a lot better moving forward. And that's what my hope is that I can help share that content with people that'll help them get better, help them evolve, and stay that one step ahead of what technology, what industries, and what else is going on out there. All right. So it doesn't look like there's any questions today. But hopefully you got some value out of this one. I'm going to cut this a little bit early unless somebody does have some direct questions here, because I do have a call that I have to jump on here at 1 o'clock. But as always, just hit me up. I'm also going to start, by the way, start messing around with different times, because we get a lot of views on these videos, but not a lot of engagement when we light them up on Mondays. So I'm figuring that the time is probably not a really great time for everybody. Mondays are tough. So I might flip this over to fucking Fridays, where Friday afternoons we just light it up. And at the end of the week, people are just, kind of detoxing from the week and have some questions and just want to wrap. Maybe I'll just grab a beer or something like that, and we'll do fucking Fridays instead. So if you do watch this and you have some feedback or content around that stuff, and when would be a better time for you to watch this live and ask questions, then please feel free to hit me up on the comment section here. But anyways, again, thanks for everything, for all your support on this, and keep an eye out for all the social channels out there and spreading the word. All right. Thanks again. Make it happen. Cheers.